Welcome Mason, alumni, faculty, staff, family, and friends. My name is Lilian de Jong, and I'm a professor at the Department of Nutrition and Food Studies at the College of Health and Human Services. Our department chair is Dr. Larry Cheskin, and we are a department of 7 faculty. Our department is only 10 years old, so actually pretty young still, and we'll be celebrating our anniversary next fall. We have graduate programs, undergraduate, minor, and some certificates. We teach courses in all the areas of nutrition, like macronutrients, micronutrients, also fun classes like cooking and wine and beer, and many, many others. If you have any questions about our department, please don't hesitate to contact us. Our information is listed on our website at the GMU website. I would now like to introduce our chef for tonight, which is Gianna Johnson. Jaianna is an alumni of our MS Nutrition program. She graduated in May 2020. Before coming to GMU, she obtained an associate's degree in culinary arts and a bachelor's degree in hospitality from the Culinary Institute of New York, Monroe College. While she was here at an MS program, Jaianna was the teaching assistant for all our cooking classes. She also did an internship with Diana Bastide, who is the dietitian for an athletics department. During this internship, she completed cooking instructions and developed hearty, healthy recipes for our athletes. For this event, Jay will be demonstrating how to make heart-healthy versions of the following meals: buffalo chicken dips, homemade chips, pizza, and loaded nachos. Jay, it's all yours.
Hi, my name is Gianna Johnson, as Lillian introduced me earlier. Today I was invited to demonstrate a couple of heart-healthy recipes, some of our Super Bowl favorites, and as she said, buffalo chicken dip, loaded nachos, and pizza. So heart-healthy modifications can be as classified as low to no trans fats, lower saturated fats, low sodium, low sugar. And with that, we're going to get started with homemade chips. The reason we're doing homemade chips as opposed to store-bought chips is we can control the amount of sodium that we add to our chips, and we can also choose to use whole wheat options. And the more wheat, the higher in fiber it is, which is better for your heart. So I'm going to start with the chips. I have here whole wheat tortilla chips, tortilla wraps, cut into eighths. And I also have whole wheat pita bread pockets. And I'm going to show you how I decided to cut those. So to start, we have our tortilla. I cut this into eighths. And our pita pocket, pita bread, into eighths as well. So to start, we're going to cut in half. I like to stack them because it's easier to see. So that's half. This is a fourth. And now we have an eighth. And now you have beautiful triangles to make chips out of. And you can put them in your Ziploc bag to season with oil and salt. As far as pita bread goes, I do the same. And I like pita pockets because they're a little bit easier to, even though 4 or 5 come in a bag, you can also split them in half to create, so that's 2 chips, to create more chips. And once I do all of these, we're gonna season with a couple tablespoons of olive oil, some salt. You can also season with ground black pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, low sodium seasoning salts, any other spice blends that are lower in sodium so that you can reduce the amount of salt that you're using. I'm gonna put a little bit of olive oil in here. A little bit of olive oil in here. We're going to sprinkle some salt in both of them. No more than 1/4 of a teaspoon, nothing crazy. And zip the bag, leave a little bit of air in the bags so you can shake them up. You can get your kids involved. so that you can have a good time. Watch all the chips move around, massage the bag a little bit because the tortillas sometimes tend to stick together. We want everything coated in the olive oil and salt. So once we do that, we're going to take our pan lined with aluminum foil. We're going to take our chips, and I find it's easier to lay the chips out so that the triangles are opposite of each other, just so you have more room on the pan as opposed to throwing the chips on the sheet pan. Tortilla chips. So we're going to take this and put this in the oven with our gloves so we can get clean gloves. While that's cooking, we're going to mix our taco seasoning, our homemade taco seasoning. So today we're going to be using chili powder, cumin, onion powder, garlic powder, dried oregano, paprika, and crushed red pepper flakes. Now you can mix and match and choose whichever seasonings you'd like for your taco seasoning, but the reason it's better to make it at home, make it yourself, is again to control the amount of sodium in your spice mix. So we have our paprika, chili powder, onion powder, red pepper flakes, oregano, garlic powder. No. Garlic powder. And our cumin. We also have salt and ground black pepper, and that's also to taste as well, so feel free to taste it and see how much salt you'd like to add to it. So we're going to mix it up, and there we have our spice mix, and we can set that aside. So our next step is going to be to prepare our chicken for both the chicken dip and the nachos. You can also opt for ground turkey or any other lean meats to top your nachos with, but I'm going for chicken today. I have my chicken pre-wrapped. I find it's easier to go ahead and season your chicken on the sheet pan that you're working on, just so that it's less mess and you won't have to worry about cross-contamination, which is a very big deal. Same reason why you need to cook your chicken all the way through. So today we're going to be cooking this chicken breast at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for about 30 to 35 minutes, or until the internal temperature of the chicken reaches 165 degrees Fahrenheit, or until you cut into it and the juices run clear. Sometimes I like to go a little over that just in case, because there's nothing worse than raw chicken. So we have one hand that I'm going to use to flip the chicken, and one hand that I'm going to use to season the chicken. So for the buffalo chicken dip, I'm going to do salt and pepper, and the taco chicken, I'm going to use the taco seasoning that we made. So I'm going to season this. Flip. So that is our buffalo chicken dip chicken done. And I chose to do the taco seasoning last because you will see how bright red the chicken is going to turn once we season it. So I like to just get in there. Season all the sides. And you're probably going to have leftovers of the spice mix, but that's fine. You can always keep it on hand so that you can use it in the future or for more chicken. I am also going to season some cauliflower, some frozen cauliflower, or you can use fresh cauliflower with the taco seasoning as well, as a healthy option to add vegetables to your loaded nachos. I also like to use cauliflower rice when doing ground turkey or any sort of ground meat, so that I can kind of sneak vegetables in wherever I can. Now I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil. Just a little bit, about a tablespoon or two per chicken breast. all the sides. Rub our chicken down. There we go. And this is going to go in the oven, like I said, for about 30 to 35 minutes at 400 degrees Fahrenheit. So, I'm back. So now with our cauliflower, as I mentioned, I'm going to put a little bit on the sheet pan. Season with our taco seasoning. Maybe a little more. This also works well as a vegetarian option. I also like to do chickpeas as well. If I wanted to do something more vegetarian friendly. A little bit of olive oil. We're gonna mix those up as well. Coat all the sides of the cauliflower. And we're going to put this in the oven about the same amount of time and temperature as the chicken, so 400. We're going to check it a little bit sooner just because it's frozen cauliflower, so maybe 15 to 20 minutes as opposed to the 30 to 35 for the chicken. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a couple of facts about this. So I chose mascarpone cheese instead of cream cheese, full fat cream cheese, which normal recipes call for, because compared to cream cheese, the mascarpone has, so cream cheese has 100 and, sorry, that's the chips. It's not done yet. Another couple minutes. So this mascarpone cheese compared to the cream cheese has about 110 milligrams of sodium, whereas as for 8 ounces, whereas this has only 5 milligrams of sodium. So I chose this for a heart-healthy option. I also chose the Daisy Light Sour Cream because it has about half the fat, half the total fat, less saturated fat and less cholesterol than the full-fat version, and in comparison to any other brand of sour cream that I saw. The Texas Pete hot sauce, I opted for this as well because it has less sodium than traditional buffalo sauces. So anything labeled buffalo sauce, this would have less sodium. And the comparison would be about half. So 1 tablespoon of like red hot buffalo wing sauce was about 460 milligrams for a tablespoon of sodium. And this is about 270 milligrams of sodium per tablespoon. So we have 8 ounces of mascarpone cheese, 2 ounces of our Daisy Light Sour Cream. We have 1/3 of a cup of Texas Pete hot sauce, about 1/4 of a teaspoon of cayenne pepper. And you can also add more cayenne pepper depending on how spicy you want your buffalo dip. We're going to reserve 1/3 of a cup of our mild cheddar so that we can sprinkle it on top for later. Decoration, presentation, stuff like that. Our mozzarella. We're going to add our spices. So we have, as I said, 1/4 of a teaspoon of cayenne pepper. We also have 1/4 of a teaspoon of garlic powder, onion powder, and I put about a teaspoon of salt. But you can use more or less, but you know, less is more. And we're going to use about half of our Hidden Valley Ranch packet. Share that open. You know, estimate half, or you can actually measure if you'd like. We're going to mix a little bit. That 1 second. Beautifully golden brown. So while those are cooling, here are our pita chips and these are our tortilla chips. As they cool, they're going to crisp up some more, so be careful not to burn your chips. I cannot tell you the amount of times I have burned chips, and you wouldn't want to know. But these look great, and try to aim for something around there, a little golden brown. So before I move any further, I would like to show you guys how to cut an onion while I can. So we're going to start by talking about knife skills. When holding a knife, it's important to make sure you're pinching at the base of the blade and wrapping your fingers around the handle, because a lot of people like to hold knives by the handle, and it's unstable, and you're more likely to injure yourself or not cut straight, and all of the other bad things that can happen when you're holding a knife. So when you are pinching the blade and wrapping your finger on the handle, you have a little bit more stability and control as to where the blade is going to go. So at any given time, your non-dominant hand, or the hand that is holding whatever food you're cutting, is going to need to be in like a claw shape. So when cutting an onion, the easiest way that I've learned is to cut it in half. So you see that there's the top and the root end. So when looking at the root end, we want to cut it in half this way. So by cutting it in half this way, with the root still intact, we'll have an easier time cutting the onion while it's still together. So because we're dicing this onion, we need as much togetherness as possible, because the layers will separate, and it's just difficult to cut otherwise. Not impossible, but difficult. So we're gonna cut off the top so that it's easier to cut or peel the skin. So we're gonna peel back the first layer, the skin, as much as you want, not too much, so that you still have onion left. So with the roots still intact, as you can see, and now the onion's not going anywhere, we're going to create a claw shape on the onion with the root end facing your hand. And with your blade, because we're going to dice, I'm going to go straight line, straight down, horizontally with the onion. And as you go, you can also use your pinky and your thumb to hold the onion together so that it's easier to manage as well. I'm just going to go straight down, and I'm going to use a rocking motion by putting the tip of my blade to the board first and rock through and pull my knife back up. Now, higher things like this, I'll show you guys how to mince garlic in a moment, but higher things like this, you might want to just pick up your knife and lead with the tip of your knife and keep going. So now we have garlic. Garlic cloves are easiest to work with when they're smashed. So you're going to take the side of your knife, blade facing away from you, or sharp edge facing away from you. You want to use the heel right here of your hand to smash the garlic clove. One good smash. And then you're going to take the skin off. It should come right off. You might need to do a couple more. Now that we have it a little bit smashed, it's a bit easier to mince. So when mincing is similar, pinch the bottom of the blade, wrap your fingers around the handle, keep the tip of your blade on the cutting board, and you're going to rock through, and you're going to make your wrist go in sort of a circular motion, moving forward. So when mincing, you're trying to get as small as possible. You can rock through like this, and a lot of people like to go like this. It's not necessary. Sorry. Okay. Take our garlic, put it right in the bowl. Okay. And we're going to mix. So I opted for roasted vegetables as a topping for pizza because it is a healthier option than just putting pepperoni, sausage, bacon, any meats on your pizza. I also am choosing to use fresh mozzarella and a whole wheat pizza crust. So to start, I'm going to show you guys how to cut some of my favorite vegetables to put on pizza. So this is a yellow squash. I already started cutting some of it in slices. I find it's easier to do slices on a pizza just because you can, just like a pepperoni, you can spread it evenly and it's thin and not super heavy on a pizza. This is our zucchini. We have carrots, and I also have a bell pepper. So I'm gonna cut just a little bit more of each of these. So as far as slices with squash go, I tend to keep it still thin, round slices. You don't have to be perfect, but Thinner is better for me personally. And all of this is also up to preference. Even the shape, even down to the shape. Like, for example, I chose to cut my zucchini here, as you can see, on a bias a little bit because I wanted longer slices because it's also a smaller zucchini. To show you how to do that as opposed to the regular slices, I start cutting at an angle. So cut the ends off, cut that end off, cut this end off. Throw those out, or compost, whatever works for you. And we're gonna slice on the bias, same size as the squash. You want to keep all of the vegetables relatively the same size. You're gonna do the same thing and start with the tip of your knife and work your way down, as opposed to just going straight down with the blade. You wanna rock through just so you can use all of your knife. You don't dull it, or it doesn't get as dull as quickly. So yeah, and that's when you do that on the bias. We're gonna do the same with the carrots. So I peeled this carrot and then I started cutting it at an angle, as you can see here. So when I lay it down, it'll be at an angle to me. Cut those thin as well. I like to cut my bell peppers in like fourths, I guess. So start by cutting one side to create a flat surface, and then you start cutting each of the other sides. So now that I have the flat surface on this side, I'm going to cut this side. So that's one side, and this is your final side, right? Now, a lot of people like to, just like a spicy pepper, which I'll actually show you soon with the jalapeno, the white part, or the pith of the bell pepper, can sometimes be bitter in sweet bell peppers as opposed to spicy in hot peppers. So I like to cut those out, be gentle. You can use a paring knife, smaller knife, so that you don't cut yourself, but with the control that you have by holding the blade, you should be fine. And cutting away from you is better. It was just easier for me to do that, I'm sorry. So do slices. I like to do bigger slices so that I can cut them in half. Slice, slice. And then halves. Okay. These are good to go. So now we're going to put them on our sheet pan. We're going to do our squash, yellow squash, do our zucchini. You can also, I also have had pizza where it's grated zucchini, so you can use a box grater and shred your zucchini. That's also really good. And some of our bell peppers. You can also just put these toppings directly on the pizza and then bake them, but I wanted roasted vegetables. I'm gonna do a little bit of salt. You can also save the salt for the end because salt tends to draw the moisture out of your vegetables, especially with squash. So when you're cooking squash in the future, instead of seasoning with salt at the beginning, season with salt at the end, you might have a crisper vegetable. So we're gonna mix this up with our hands, make sure everything's all seasoned. I kind of like to create rows like this just to keep everything pretty even. Try to keep as many as flat as possible. Season all with salt and pepper. Alright, and this is going to go in our 500-degree oven for anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes based on your preferred doneness. So I'm going to take my gloves off and I'll be right back. So Pico De Gallo, I started with with tomatoes on the vine. You can use whatever tomatoes you like, your favorite tomatoes. It's very much up to you, but I like these tomatoes. You can also use Roma, known as Roma tomatoes a lot of the times. I already have some started here, but I'm gonna cut the rest of these just so I can show you how to cut tomatoes. So I like to do slices just so it's easier to manage because I'm gonna dice these tomatoes. Okay. Slice pieces. Do the same rocking motion, saw a little bit of sawing just to keep the tomato together. Do slices again so we can get a dice out of these tomatoes. Alright, and then to dice, you turn it 90 degrees and you curve sideways. And you dice it. Alright, there you go. It goes right in the bowl. So we're gonna do the same onion cutting method with this red onion. We're going to I kept the root end on this onion. I cut the top off of it and peeled the skin back. So with the root end facing my hand, I'm gonna do the same slices. And you also, it's important to make sure that you don't cut all the way through the onion. The point of it is to keep the root end intact. So if it's easier to hold this way, do that. And then you have your slices. You're gonna go down this way. I also like really small pieces of onion in any of the raw mixes that I'm making, such as Pico De Gallo. You only need about a quarter of this onion, so use just a little bit more. Put that back. Right. We're gonna do the same thing with our garlic clove. Smash with the heel of our hands and get the skin right off. Cut the woody end off just because sometimes you can taste it, but you never, or feel it, but you never know. And keeping our hand on the top of the blade so we don't cut ourselves. So we're mincing super small, just because this is also not going to be cooked. We don't want anybody biting into a giant chunk of garlic. Okay, I'm going to do the cilantro next, and I'm going to do the jalapeno last just because it's spicy. So we have our cilantro. Cilantro is different from parsley, so make sure you keep an eye out for that when you're picking whatever vegetables that you're getting for these dishes if you decide to try them at home. So I like to take the leaves and stack the leaves just so it's easier to mince that way. I like to roll them a little bit, and I'll show you later with the basil how I like to, this technique would be like chiffonade to create little strips, but I like to start a lot of my herbs this way just so it's easier to mince. So we're doing the same thing like we did with the garlic and keeping the tip of our plate on the cutting board at all times. And we're trying to get a fine mince on this. After that, we're going to go ahead and do our jalapeno. So I already halved and cored this half, but just to show you, this half of the jalapeno, this pith part that I was talking about with the sweet bell pepper, and the seeds are actually the spiciest part of the pepper. So we like to scoop those out. You can use a spoon and actually remove this. I'm going to go ahead and use a spoon to do that. So take a spoon and you just go down the middle and you just scoop out the center and it comes right out. Okay? And you get the seeds and there you go. Right? And we're only using about half of a jalapeno. And you can, if you like it spicier, you can leave as much or as little pepper, put more peppers, different types of peppers in your pico. So this I'm also cutting super small. I did slices just like we did with the bell pepper, and I'm going to mince it this way or dice it this way to create super small pieces so that nobody's biting into a giant chunk of jalapeno. So now that that's done, I'm gonna put this in our Pico De Gallo, in our bowl. And then I'm gonna show you how to get the juice out of a lime. The easiest way to get juice out of any citrus fruit is by rolling it. You can also opt to microwave. I've been told microwaving for about 10-second intervals, but not too much because it is a closed item and you don't want it to explode. So I just opt to roll it. So you use the heel of your hand again and you just press it and roll it across your cutting board. And you can sometimes hear and feel the juice releasing from the little cells in the lime or lemon. And we're going to cut it in half down the middle, and we're going to use half of this lime and juice it. You can use a fork, you can use an actual juicer. So after this, we're going to mix it and let it sit in the fridge, marinate a little bit. Oh, I'm going to season it with salt and pepper as well, and sometimes I like to put some extra virgin olive oil in my Pico De Gallo, but that is also dealer's choice. Okay, that's enough of that. I'm going to get a little bit of salt, about a half of a teaspoon, but that's also to taste. Same with the pepper. You can add onion powder, garlic powder, any other spices that you would like. A little bit, about maybe a tablespoon of olive oil. So we're just gonna mix it up. See, and you could add more to make it more green. You can add green bell peppers. You can add corn. You can add any of the other things that you would like to add. You can make it into a salsa as opposed to just Pico De Gallo, and that's up to you. But this is going to be for as one of these fixings for our nachos. So we're going to do shred the chicken for our buffalo chicken dip. We cut into our chicken. Juices are running clear, so you're going to take 2 forks and you're going to go against the grain and shred the chicken. Shred it like so. You could also dice it, like cube it up a little bit, but I think the texture is a little bit better in buffalo chicken dip when you shred your chicken. For our nachos, we're gonna dice, so I'll show you how to do that as well. But you could also shred chicken for that. And like I said, you could use ground meats, ground turkey specifically, very lean ground beef, ground pork, stuff like that. Alright, now that we've done that, I'm going to take a wooden spoon because it'll be easier for me to mix, but keep the spatula so I can scrape down the bowl later. I'm going to mix this, our buffalo chicken dip. And normal recipes call for canned chicken, but there's nothing like the real thing, so chicken breast, and then you can control the amount better, the sodium, the fat content, and also the texture. So now that this is all mixed together, I'm going to take our plating dish. Actually, I'm going to move this first. Take our plating dish. I'm going to spray it with our nonstick spray. Make sure you get all the edges. You could also opt for something like this, something more square, a little deeper, but that's also up to you. I'm going to place our chicken dip in this bowl, in our plating dish, I mean. Scrape down the sides, make sure you get everything. You're going to use your spoon to spread it out just a little bit so everything is even. And then we're gonna take our reserved 1/3 cup and sprinkle it all over the top. When this is done, I like to use green onions as garnish, or if you're fancy, you want to put parsley, cilantro, any other green herbs. It's actually really nice. Okay, this is going to go into an oven, a 350-degree oven, for about 25 to 30 minutes, or until bubbling and hot and juicy and yummy. I'll be right back. Next step is to cut the chicken and assemble our nachos. So I'm going to start by cutting up our roasted cauliflower. So we have our cauliflower here. It looks beautiful. I actually like to take it and cut it up just a little bit so that it's easier to handle. You don't have giant chunks of cauliflower on your nachos. And in case they're like kids trying to eat the nachos, or adults that just don't like cauliflower, it'll just be our little secret. So bite-sized pieces for the cauliflower, and I'm going to set this aside, back on our tray. Okay. And then I'm going to do something similar to our chicken breast that we seasoned with our taco seasoning. All right, so we're gonna do against the grain on the chicken breast, but because we're cubing it, it is what it is. So slices, start by slicing. Do bite-sized slices, bite-sized pieces relatively small, just so it's easier to pick up with chips. This is still a little hot, so I also like to, just like any vegetable that you're cutting, like to take the flat side and turn it on its flat side so that it's more stable. I'm gonna slice this in half, and then we're going to cut it into tiny little cubes. And if you see any pieces that are really big, just cut them in half. Like these are a little big. Cut these down the middle. So next we're gonna do our nachos. So to start, I like to use corn and black beans in my nachos. I also have mild cheddar and some Monterey Jack cheese, just for flavor. So with the corn and the beans, if you do not use like dried, from scratch dry beans, opt for a reduced sodium bean, no salt if they have that option, and I have a no salt added can of corn to make it more heart healthy. So we have our pre-made chips, our homemade whole wheat tortilla chips, and we're going to start by adding a layer at the bottom. Actually, I'm gonna take that back a little because I have to spray it. Okay, we're gonna start with our pan. With our pan, we're gonna spray with nonstick spray. Throw cheese in the stick. If you're using a sheet pan with aluminum foil, you can do the same thing, just throw this cheese in the stick. You're going to take your homemade chips, our beautiful homemade whole wheat chips, and put down a single layer. You can do as many layers as you want. Spread these out evenly around here. So we're going to just assemble. So I like to put a little bit of cheese at the bottom first, just so that these toppings can stick to the chips. And then I'm going to add some corn, just a little bit of corn. Right, I'm going to add some black beans. When you're using canned vegetables, canned beans, canned corn and stuff, I also like to rinse off any of the extra liquid, just because any residual seasonings or sodiums on it could also be washed off. We're going to put a little bit of our taco seasoned cauliflower. Try to spread it out evenly. Then we'll put some of our chicken, good little handful. And then we're going to put some of our mild cheddar. Right, good handful, about half of it. All right, and then you keep going. Make another layer, do the same thing, and do as many layers as you want. And then we'll top it off with more cheese and then put it in the oven for about 15 minutes. 350 degrees, 400. To brown the top as well if you'd like. You can put it a little higher, but make sure you watch it so you don't burn it. Put all our cheese, a little bit more of this. Great. So now this is gonna go in the oven. We're gonna change our gloves and we'll be right back. All right. While the nachos are in the oven, we're going to make our fixings. So I have some green onions or scallions, whatever you like to call them. I also have avocado I'm going to mix, and then I have some of our light daisy sour cream. To start with the green onions, we're going to cut the tops off with these. And then we're going to use our little claw and make sure we're holding our knife the right way so that we don't cut ourselves. And we're going to thinly slice down the rings of the green onions. You could create little rings, just like you've seen everywhere with garnishes and stuff. Keeping the tip of my knife on the cutting board and rocking through the green onion, right? And I've seen a question that was like, if we've talked about, these are called green onions, how far down can you go on a green onion? You can go as far down as you'd like. You can even go down to the root. That's up to you. It all tastes good. It all tastes like onion. Okay, so now I'm going to put these in our cute little serving dish for our topping. And then I'm going to leave a little bit. I'm actually going to put it on our buffalo dip. All right, great. So as far as your loaded nachos go, you can actually make guacamole if you'd like. I kind of like diced avocado or just smashed avocado with salt and pepper. So to open an avocado or cut an avocado, if you don't know already, we're going to hold our knife properly. We're going to use the middle of the blade and we're going to run our knife around the pit of the avocado. So we're going to put our knife right in the center until you can feel the pit of the avocado. And you're just going to twist the avocado so that it goes around the pit, but is still attached to the blade. And you're just going to slide it right out and make sure that the cuts meet on the other side. And then you're just going to twist and open. So now we have our beautiful avocado. Then you're going to be very, very, very careful. And you're going to take your blade and you're going to wedge your knife into the pit of the avocado so you can remove it. So one good hit, like that, right? You're just going to wiggle each way to pop the avocado pit out of the avocado. Put that in the trash, or you can put toothpicks in it and grow your own avocado. So then we're going to just slice inside. You're going to be very, very careful with this as well because you could cut through the other side of the skin. Make sure that you are just using the tip of the knife. You can use a paring knife or a butter knife, depending on how ripe your avocado is. You don't even have to use a knife if you don't want to. You could just smash it and put it in the container. But for presentation purposes, we're going to do some dices. Or some dice. So we're going to take a spoon or fork. It's close to us. We're going to scoop out our avocado. Right? And when plating this, you can also put a little lime on it to keep it from turning brown, but also lime for flavor. And same with smashing it or turning it into guacamole. Your recipe is your recipe. And that's our plating for our nachos. So we have fresh mozzarella that's pre-sliced. You can buy any other type of mozzarella and just slice it yourself. I just like the flavor of it, and it tends to have less sodium than pre-shredded. We have basil, we have rosemary. You can use whatever herbs you would like. Thyme would be good as well. We have some garlic. Ooh, sorry, garlic that we're gonna mince. And then I opt for using no salt added tomatoes if I'm going to use a canned tomato. So I have the tomato sauce and I have the diced tomato. You can use fresh tomatoes if you'd like, but to create a sauce as opposed to using a pre-made pasta sauce, insert brand name here, you could just use canned tomato sauce. So, and we also have our store-bought pre-made crust. So this crust is sprouted grain. You can use any other type of whole wheat pizza is better, and as we said before, whole wheat is better because more fiber, better for your heart. So we're just gonna assemble the pizza. Actually, we're going to do mince our garlic and our herbs first. So we're gonna mince our garlic, peel the palm, crush the garlic, remove the skin. Great. We're gonna do this quick. And you could do slices of garlic, any type of garlic that you like. I like to use fresh garlic as opposed to like garlic pastes and stuff because again, they add salt and other additives to garlic to keep it fresh, and why not just use fresh garlic? It's easy enough to use. So we also have our rosemary. I love rosemary. So rosemary has this woody stalk in it. So what I like to do is go against the stalk so that you can get the leaves off. So the leaves go this way, we're gonna go this way. So we're gonna just run our hands down, all the leaves pop right off. Do a little bit of that. And we also have some basil. When you're keeping basil, you can actually keep it in a wet paper towel and it holds in the fridge for a little while, or if you have an actual stalk or stem, you can keep it in cold water, put it in the fridge in water, and it'll hold for a while. So we're gonna do a couple of leaves of that, and I'm gonna show you how to chiffonade. We're gonna mince this rosemary, so try to line them up as evenly as possible, and the sprigs tend to fly everywhere if you don't have a sharp enough knife or you're just slamming your knife down on the cutting board. So try to be gentle with the rosemary because it will fly everywhere. All right, we have that. And then chiffonade. Doing a chiffonade especially to basil leaves is really fun for me because you can create little ribbons using knife cuts. So we're just stacking the leaves on each other just so that they're all facing the same way or a way that is even. We're going to take the pile that we have and we're going to roll the leaves so that it's in a little bunch, and then we're going to slice so then it creates little ribbons as opposed to trying to mince it or do each leaf individually. It just creates little pretty ribbons. And as you can see here, so these are our little ribbons, right? Okay, so now that we have that, we're going to take our pizza. We're gonna start plating. Okay, now we have our crust already. I'm gonna put a little bit of olive oil, some extra virgin olive oil on the crust itself, just because it's good and why not. We're gonna use a spoon, spread this out a little bit. I also like to mix my sauces, but it's okay. We can just use opt for just the sauce, incorporate your diced tomatoes, use fresh tomatoes like I said before, and create a thin layer. Use a little bit of this diced tomato, just for some texture. And we're going to be putting our roasted vegetables on this as our topping. Or you can leave it as it is and do like margarita style pizza with the sliced mozzarella and the herbs. I'm gonna put a little bit of our garlic. Make sure it's even on the pie. Put some of our rosemary and some of our basil. Okay, and we have our roasted vegetables. So I'm gonna create a kilo pattern on here, just because, and for people that have their favorite type of vegetable, give everybody a little section of that. We have our roasted bell pepper, and we left a little section for our carrots. Right? And this is going to go, you're going to use pre-made crust, so you just bake it according to your packaging. And mine says about 8 to 10 minutes at 425 degrees. So we're also using this sliced mozzarella so that we can use less cheese. It's just a little bit healthier for you than a bunch of processed cheese. Okay? So while we wait for the pizza in the oven, we're pretty much done. We have our nachos out of the oven. We have our toppings here with our sour cream, our avocado, our green onion. We have our Pico De Gallo. And I also prepared some fixings for the buffalo chicken dip. We have our pita chips that we made earlier. I also like the idea of using celery sticks and carrot sticks, just like if you were eating buffalo wings, you have carrot sticks and celery sticks on the side. Use those for dipping. We have our Pico De Gallo, and then when the pizza comes out of the oven, we're good to go. Well, thank you all for joining me. Today we made our buffalo chicken dip, our loaded nachos, and our roasted vegetable pizza. I hope you enjoyed and have fun cooking. Okay, that's it.